Welcome to Familiar Territory, an anime podcast hosted by two dorks who have been friends for over 20 years. Here we look at anime both new and old through a critical lens and discuss themes, influences, and our favorite parts. So grab your talking cat and transform into your favorite outfit as we step into our familiar territory. My name is Grant.
And I'm Brantley. Heads up, spoilers on the way. Check the description, see if you're safe to listen. You know what feels better than stumbling upon an amazing show?
What?
Stumbling upon an amazing show that absolutely nobody cares about.
I do think that people cared about this in 2004.
It's true.
But it did not have the staying power of other hit shows from that time. And
a damn shame. That's what it is.
What are we talking about, Brantley?
We're talking about R.O.D, particularly the OVA and the TV, the anime series. We have not read the light novels, but that's okay, because a little bit of trivia, we found out that the novelization was written sort of in parallel with the creation of the anime. So for once, this is a case where we're not completely missing out on original context when both works exist. So, I heard about R.O.D a long time ago. I probably actually saw a GIF of it first, with Yomiko, the main character, doing some big walls of paper, and I think it was wow, that's neat. I don't know what that is. Probably saw in the comments, oh, that's R.O.D, cool, whatever, and moved on. Then at this stage in my life, I'm in a constant sort of quest for finding what characters can I cosplay who wear regular clothes that I can reuse just on the daily. And I remembered her and R.O.D, and I was like, I have no idea what R.O.D is actually about. And I had this sinking feeling that as I started looking into it, because it's about sort of espionage and sort of superheroes and stuff, I was kind of worried it was going to be some just kind of reactionary whatever action show. But I'm so happy that I was wrong. I watched the OVA on my own, and I thought, that's pretty good. That's all right. There's some things that I very much like. But in general, I was just yeah, that was good. And then I showed it to you, and holy shit, something clicked. Would you like to tell us about your beginning experiences with R.O.D, Grant?
So, Braylon and I have been in a pretty large anime slump for a couple months. There's been shows that I've been watching with other people that are if we have time with them, we'll put them on. We've been watching Lazarus and occasionally some Yu Yu Hakusho. Just some stuff that's a little bit more, fine.
Yeah.
Not that those shows aren't great.
General audiences.
Right. But then I was hey, I saw a GIF of this show. You want to give it a shot? It seems Magical Girl adjacent enough. And we started watching the TV show. And it was the first time in a long time where I'm holy shit, I don't want to stop watching this. I want to keep going. I want to know what's going to happen. And it has a lot of good about it. I think it does have some things that are fine, whatever. But it is, it sinks its teeth into you, and it doesn't let go. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but we'll talk about that a bit later. But I think one of the first things that really hooked me is the character design of the main characters, and just their chemistry they had together.
Absolutely. It's hard to maybe convince our audience, hey, you need to really get into this series, this franchise from the early 2000s, that you're almost definitely going to have to pirate or whatever. But listen, it hits different from this era, right? This is a time when you're getting stuff really sincerely fun female protagonists and a found family story that doesn't feel contrived or just like, oh, it's the popular thing to do, so I'm going to sort of coast on what's come before me. You know, the fact that it has like legitimate anti-imperialist commentary kind of baked in, like, it doesn't feel like it's pandering. It feels like it's ahead of that, right? And speaking on behalf of two people who are not cool enough to take drugs on the regular or have the disposable income for that,
I can't afford drugs.
It has to feel like a mild cocaine bump at least. Like, it's good shit. I feel like for anybody who follows us, and it's like, I like to find progressive anime, you know, things that kind of come out of nowhere with something I didn't expect, and you know, it's speaking to me on a different level that I'm not used to from other things, you know, maybe from like the modern era as we're trying to really capture that stuff. That I'd say just go check out Read or Die and then come back. I think you'll appreciate it better if you do get it raw. And we're still gonna hype it up. So sorry if it doesn't meet your qualifications for a good anime. But
I also will say I do think the way we watched it was accidentally awesome.
Yeah.
we'll get into that here in a second, because we did not watch the show by watching the OVA first and then watching the anime. We watched the first 12 episodes of the anime and then the OVA and then the anime.
Yeah.
And it fits very cool narratively.
So take us through the narrative, Grant. Tell us what this show's about.
So, Read or Die takes place in a world where magic just sort of exists. They don't really delve too deep into what it means to be magical. It just sort of happens. And they do talk about training and learning how to do it. So there's obviously some sort of application that you can practice doing, but magic is around you. There's no set rules. Everybody can kind of do whatever they want, but it's still not, you know, there's still guns and shit. And so talking about it in the way that we watched it, we are introduced to a writer who is not magical in terms of, you know, doing magical. Like, she can't do spells or shit. And it's Nenene Sumirigawa. And she is a prodigy novelist who published her first book in high school and hasn't published anything else. And she's sort of had this writer's block, but she's still popular enough to do, like, book signings and stuff. And realistically, she's, what, 24? So it's not like she, you know, it's been 5 years since she essentially wrote her book. So it's not like, yeah. Or has it been 9 years since she wrote her book, 5 years after the end of the OVA?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Either way, she has not written a book for a while, and she has a writer's block, which she is blaming on the fact that she does not know where her mentor / friend / crush?
More than friends?
More than friends. So she is 23 in the TV show, 17 in the OVA. So, yeah. And it was her substitute, Yomiko Reedman. And Yomiko is the protagonist of the OVA. The reason I think watching the first 12 episodes works before you watch the OVA is because it creates this sort of mythological figure of Yomiko. If you watch it our way, we did not know I did not know. Brantley's already seen the OVA, I haven't. I didn't know who Yomiko was, other than that she was the paper master from the original OVA. So Nenene is feeling caught in a rut, and then she is threatened by a crazed fan because she hasn't released anything for so long, for 5 years. So Nenene hires bodyguards.
The Three Sisters Detective Agency?
The Paper Sisters are 3 paper masters, which are essentially wizards that manipulate paper to do whatever the fuck they want. But usually hardening it, making it into shields, blades, turning it into monsters, the usual. And so it is Michelle Chung, who is the oldest of the sisters, and she's sort of a ditzy,
motherly kind of type.
Yeah, but she's very impulsive and sort of bad at it.
Yeah.
She is not the mature one, although she holds the group together, as she says, by being the positive one, the optimist.
Yeah.
She is the oldest, and then you have Maggie Mui, and she is tall as fuck. Like, not just like a tall woman, but she's like 6'2". She is super tall, and her design rips. She is a paper master just like her sister. She is quiet. She doesn't talk too much, and she tends to like to be by herself. One of her jokes is that she likes to be in like tight, confined places because she finds it calming. And she uses her paper to make the monsters, make vehicles. She is awesome. And then the other sister, and arguably the main character of the series, I want to even say arguably, the author of it has said that he wrote her to be kind of the perspective character, is their youngest sister, Anita King, who is a 12-year-old middle schooler who is not into reading, doesn't necessarily vibe with them on a personal level, but loves them all the same. And she's sort of this brawler type. She's really fast. She makes swords out of her paper. And they all live in Hong Kong and are all Chinese. And I just think that's cool. So they protect Nene from these assassins in a pretty strong first couple episodes. I would say that if they didn't get a full series, those first couple episodes would make a really good OVA. Mm-hmm. It has a good confined story beat. But where this show shines, and honestly, where I think a lot of modern day anime fails, is after they do this, the Paper Sisters move in with Nene. Because they are still hired to work in Japan to protect her. So they can't go back to their home in Hong Kong. But they're not exactly a wealthy group. It's kind of implied that they're really bad at spending their money, because Maggie and Michelle will literally buy out entire bookstores of books. But they need to live in Japan, but they can't afford to live in Japan. And so they move in with Nene, and this found family relationship happens. And I'm telling you, most of the stuff that happens in these first 12 episodes, it's not all that action-y. Mm-hmm. There's some mystery solving. They occasionally go on missions. But it is a slower burn. We get to see Anita go to school and experience being a teenager for the first time. We get to see Maggie adapt to living with people. We get to see Nene let loose and enjoy her time with these new girls in her life. And it is incredibly charming. I feel like there is enough action to not make it boring, but the way the characters interact with each other, including the side characters, you're just kind of thrilled to have this slower burn. And the reason that Read or Die the TV can do this is because it has 26 episodes. This show is paced marvelously, in my opinion. It is exactly what I look for in books, where you have a series of uptime and actiony sequences, but we also get to know the characters outside of the immediate plot. Like, there's an episode that is just Anita spending the night in the school because they think it's haunted. And that is fun. And it also gets her to start hanging out with some of the other characters in her school, and you get to see her develop that. And I think that that is important for shows like this, especially ensemble casts where you have a lot of different story beats and a lot of things going on. That is going to be just my opening. Like, that is what happens right now.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say with that, the first sort of half of the show? We can go on a little bit more, but I just wanted to be like, what do you think of this? The way it does this stuff.
Yeah, I think we can't understate that. Like, we don't want to understate that when these characters are interacting, it really feels like they have chemistry to me. To the extent, this is kind of embarrassing to admit, but like, there would be times where we'd stop watching an episode and I'd still go on thinking about like, oh, that was fun hanging out with them. And like, they're not real people, you know, but like my brain would still kind of be trailing on the thought of like, you know, I wonder what Nene would say about this, or, you know, just, I don't know. It's just like they kind of were in my brain space, you know, like the Paper Sisters are living rent free with Nene, but all four of them were living in my head rent free. You know, it's really something special. Even like with the minor side characters, as you mentioned, say like hang out in the school and stuff, it doesn't feel like a chore where like, okay, we have a checkbox of anime tropes we have to go down, you know. Even the one like, you know, oh, we're gonna stay in the school because we think it's haunted. That sounds like an incredibly tropey thing to go through. And it is, you know, it's kids kind of going through this little like common, you know, kind of traditional experience, you know, but what actually happens in that time frame is not cliche. You know, it's when we have like, you know, Anita relating to Hisa, and you know, they're sort of building this friendship that can't be around their you know, their dominant interests. You know, they sort of have to meet in the middle anyways, but there's something between the two of them where they're motivated for that, you know. And the way that's very different in how Anita relates to the boys in her class, or you know, it's so dynamic, you know, and they really don't treat the characters in clusters. Like, you know, we have Anita's classmates, we have the Paper Sisters as a group, we have, you know, lots of little factions in this anime, but it never feels like any one of them is written off as just, you know, oh, this set of characters all acts the same, you know. This is in an era where like everyone in a room was their own little individual person, you know. There's something really special about that. It carries so much of the downtime, right?
You're right.
When action's not happening, then it still feels substantial. And when the action does happen, it kicks ass. It's very well produced, even in the TV series, especially in this first half. Going from the OVA to the TV series, it didn't feel like a major quality bump, you know. There's lots of Rule of Cool going on, really slick action sequences and close calls and stuff, and the way the characters use paper is very inventive. You know, there's certain staples that each character goes to. You know, Anita tends to be using like close quarters, like small weapons, and, you know, throwing paper like daggers and things like that. Michelle works at a distance by forming a bow and arrow, and that gives her sort of the distance perspective to be commanding everyone. And as mentioned, Maggie will build the familiars for the team. And so just seeing that pattern and, you know, kind of growing into it, it's just so cool, right? Every bit of the show feels so characteristically meaningful, you know.
Yeah, I think it's good. I really like that there is a pretty strong feminine lead to this.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily feel like it's just because a lot of times anime will have this problem where I'll be like, oh, they're female leads, and they're female leads, but they don't feel feminine. And you know, obviously, you know, whatever you can. There's a lot of ways to be feminine, but there is something weirdly feminine about this whole show. Everything seems to be. It's hard to describe. It really is.
You know how these days everyone's like, oh, I want a fail woman. I want, female characters that feel kind of real instead of like paper cutouts and things like that. That's what these characters are. But they're not like the trope version of that we're currently getting when people say, oh, I want a fail girl. Like these are characters who, have their own sort of special sloppy ways about them. They're catty and they're caring and they're, emotionally driven, but, also find ways to steady themselves. And, they're fully complete people. But never does it feel like they're escaping womanhood into some kind of vague, gray, plot-driven sort of character vessel, right? Like, I know what you mean, where their womanhood or girlhood, in Anita's case, is always sort of central to this, right? The way that they, form their bonds as a family unit, the way that, their relationships work sort of aromantically and romantically. If we want to talk about shows where characters can hold a conversation without, talking about a man, then you got it here, right? Like, I think part of why it feels so feminine is because it's a cast stacked with women, right?
There's like one dude, and he's a dad who loves his daughter.
Yeah.
Like
the ratio is incredible, and they use it well.
Yeah, it's great. It's and I've been reading some old articles about it, and even back then, there was the Yuricon founder, who is the founder of Yuricon, which is a convention about Yuri.
No fucking way.
Well, I know, fucking wild.
Go.
Eric Friedman was like this, and this was back in 2003, and she was like, "This is the standout show." There is a weird mix of shoujo style drama mixed with shonen, like action sequences that really work, and that there is a lot of Yuri undertones. And she says that the strongest one she felt was between Anita and her friend Hasami.
Mm-hmm.
She thinks that Nene was really good. She did revisit the series in 2017 and said she has less fond opinions about it, but mostly because she thinks that the animation quality took a dip, and it does at times, but I don't give a shit.
In the back half,
and that there's some over-sexualized moments that she didn't like, and I would say, like, at some points, yeah, but I didn't feel that it was too terrible, though, I'm a man, so what?
Yeah, this is one for all the shows we've reviewed before and had to give disclaimers on, like, hey, by the way, you're gonna see this kind of sexual content and things like that. It's very minimal here, and what it is mostly visual. There maybe are some innuendos here and there, but it doesn't follow that tropey path, that we're kind of used to, of like, well, expect that you're going to, get some comment about boob sizes, comparisons, or whatever, or things like that. Like, it's few and far between. I honestly can't think of any off the top of my head. And on top of that, I really can't think of any times where, like, the male characters are explicitly going out of their way to hit on the female characters.
No.
Most of them treat the women like adults, respectfully, and although there's, like, the Yuri undertones we mentioned, there really isn't much at all that's romantic in the show. There's, at least one confirmed relationship in the OVA, but even that is kind of more focused on for its like plot implications, and it's very much like a contrived for the big baddie's goal kind of thing. It doesn't feel like, again, this is not a show where one of the characters is like regularly getting hit on or something like that. I think that plays a part in this too, making it feel kind of even keeled and making these characters shine as women. So
yeah, and so the first half you get a lot of that that slower paced. You get a couple of reveals. They're trying to find a book, which I can't remember the name.
There's a couple books that they look for throughout the series. We're not going to go and pick the names out right now. If you want to watch the series, you can go find out. But most of the time, it's like a book about secrets on immortality, or on certain people's memories or biography or someone, that kind of thing. It's a book that is it contains valuable information for carrying on some kind of legacy.
Yeah, and as they do that, they try and find some other people looking for the books. You run into another special agent who gets shot and killed by a man named Drake, and it kind of is implying that there's some sinister underplot going in through the governments to try and find these books. And then we get the end of the first part, where since Nene is working on her book, she's fine. Lee, her editors, he says like, hey, you guys can go back to Hong Kong. And this makes Anita sad because she's been at school this entire time. Especially with her friend Hasami, who she's gotten really close to through reading Anne of Green Gables and kind of getting into her life. And
she's finally meeting people and relating to people at her age level.
Yeah,
but she's only had her sisters before then.
Yeah, including a boy whose name is Junior, which I think is really funny. There's also a real funny dub problem because I think they call him... I think Anita calls him something else because she pronounces it with the like the Japanese way they would say Junior.
Oh, like Junior.
And we were like...
Or something.
And we were like, who? Yeah, and we were like, who the fuck? Weird. And we looked it up, and it's literally just Junior, which I think is really funny. And Junior is working for this mysterious agency, and he tried to shoot Anita one time. That did happen.
Yeah.
And you get this kind of weird back and forth, like he doesn't want to kill her because Anita, outside of being the paper master, they get along.
Yeah.
And when they leave, Doku Sensha kidnaps Nene, like just straight up the moment that they're gone. And it turns out that Lee, her editor, has been plotting with Doku Sensha to kidnap her once she was no longer suffering from writer's block. And so we get, and this is where we watched, did we watch it? No, we watched it after the part 13, right?
Yeah, we finished out that segment of the show. So Nene is held captive by Doku Sensha in order to write this great unifying story, right?
Yeah.
And in order to do so, she's been sort of technologically hooked up to lose her own faculties and free will, and then sort of be forced to go through with this. It's sort of a neurological device thing that she gets hooked up to, and so the sisters find out that this stuff's going down, and having already been skeptical of Dokusensha's ways, they decide, hey, we're gonna go get Nenene back. We're not gonna let them take her away, and it's gonna be difficult. We're gonna be up against an immense organization here, but what can we do but this, right? And so they go on this great big mission to undermine Dokusensha and get Nenene back.
And they do. And here you find that Dokusensha is working with a couple of people from the OVA.
The British Library.
The
fucking Brits.
God damn it. The British in this are never the good guys, and I think that's pretty funny. So while and they're not it's kind of they're not like super with Dokusensha.
Right, but it's once against each other, but then using each other. So
yes,
and then soon enough, the British Library goes ahead and just disposes of Dokusensha entirely. Yeah. But we find out in the OVA that they were once at odds with each other.
And so once the Paper Sisters fight a paper master named Wong. Who's not really important. He's just like a boss character. Anita saves Nene. Junior, who's working for the British Library, blows up the headquarters, but everyone gets out.
But Lee did not get out.
Yes. And they kind of are like, well, Dokusensha headquarters just sank. We don't know what the fuck's going on, but hey, at least we have each other. And this is where we watched the OVA.
The thrust of the OVA introduces us to Yomiko Reedman, who Grant had become familiar with in this sort of long-distance, lost or forgotten intrigue from Nenene's perspective in Read or Die the TV. We find out that this, mysterious woman, this mentor, this incredible paper master is this moe blob of a woman who just is infatuated with books, known for clearing out stores just like the Paper Sisters will meet in the TV series, to the point where the stores will have like photos of her up that say, if you meet this woman, be nice to her, she's our best customer. While she's doing her daily scrounging for whatever literature she can get her hands on, she's suddenly attacked by one of the Ijin, Jean-Henri Fabre, I think it was, who comes down on a great big grasshopper. This is a real life entomologist that they've now turned into a sort of supervillain. And I know this sounds stupid, but you gotta bear with us.
All entomologists are supervillains. I've met a couple. I'm just saying, I don't trust anybody that has pet cockroaches, and I don't think you should too.
But please, God, keep the bees safe. So much bad shit's going to go down if we don't keep the bees safe. And so...
I get why they're villains, don't get me wrong, but they are all...
Fabre goes to steal some of Yomiko's newest possessions, these manuscripts that she's collected. And Yomiko fights back. This is where we get to see her paper master powers in first effect, in animated form. And so she battles to get these back. Not only is she just an avid reader, she's also working with the British Library. Yomiko Reedman is half Japanese and half British. And it's her job, partly, to, find and protect intelligence, essentially.
Yeah, to read or die.
Dun, dun. And so, in order to protect her beloved literature, she goes sicko mode on that grasshopper and completely annihilates him. Jean-Henri Vebra is not dead yet, but we'll sort of do a insectoid reincarnation, and we'll meet him again later. But for the time being, Yomiko is reconvened with the British Library in order to officially start this, defense mission to protect these manuscripts that the British Library is collecting and maintaining. They're all about information, essentially. She's partnered up with Nancy Makuhari, who has the power to phase through objects. Essentially, she can selectively make her body intangible. And so the two of them, along with Drake, who was mentioned in the TV series by Grant, a little earlier, so we'll see him again.
Best dad.
They are teamed up to essentially be, on standby or on the offense if more of these Ijin show up. And surely they do. The first episode of the OVA also introduces Otto Lilienthal. I think he was a German engineer of some sort. I looked this up earlier and I forgot, and I don't want to relook it up. He's got this custom flying machine that he comes in and once again tries to steal documents, which leads to a great big battle. They manage to defeat him and recover the intelligence once again. At this point, it becomes very clear that the OVA is structured and directed quite differently than the TV series. Very little downtime comparatively. A lot of action. Very boisterous. So before we go on with more of the plot stuff, what were your impressions going into that first episode of the OVA?
I liked it. It was a lot more look how badass these people are. And I kind of wished we got a little bit more downtime with Yomiko, but I don't think that it would work too much. I know that the people like it in the books, but I think doing this as an OVA makes much more sense. I was not too worried. I was not too disappointed in not having to listen to some of the British Library chill.
Yeah. Speaking of the British Library, we get to meet two characters that were in the TV series up to that halfway mark, but were more so on the sidelines and kind of reinforcing things that were going on and meddling, say in the climax with Dokusensha, and that is Joker and Wendy. Joker is like a top-ranking agent whose job it is to lead the British Library in its intelligence missions and overall its grander mission of maintaining the already too long life of this fucking guy named Mr. Gentleman. Mr. Gentleman is believed to be this important British figure who was responsible for sort of, bringing the British Empire to, a great point. And therefore, obviously we just have to keep this fucker plugged in, right? So they're trying to medically or magically extend his life however they can. And that is part of what they're trying to collect in terms of information. Sort of, I don't remember exactly when this gets revealed, but one of the reasons why the British Library colludes with Dokusensha is in order to try to transfer Mr. Gentleman's consciousness into data. And before that, one of the reasons why they butt up with Dokusensha is that they're getting into Chinese medicine to try to extend his life. And so they're trying to pull secrets and stuff. So there's this great big intelligence war that's sort of happening behind, the front layer, which is Yomiko and Nancy and Drake going on these missions. So Joker is the one who's sort of orchestrating things for the British Library. He's this, level-headed kind of guy who very much puts on like the sophisticated appeal that's required for these diplomatic engagements and ultimately doing bastardry without getting too many people hot on your heels. Wendy is a character that essentially acts as Joker's assistant, and she is very different in the OVA than she is in the TV series. Where we see her here, she's kind of a clumsy but well-meaning assistant. She plays a more serious part later.
And that was actually a big critique when people watched the show, because they were upset that she was no longer this moe blob.
Mm-hmm.
And the director and creator was like, well, yeah, it's been 5 years. She's got to go somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of dig that.
Yeah, she has a radicalizing event as well.
Yeah. Also, the Read or Die OVA was Studio Dean.
Yes.
And the TV was JC Staff.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Two studios who I feel like these days are kind of clowned on for like, they just kind of, they're making whatever, or, I know Studio Dean has had some stinkers that people are not happy about. It's kind of amazing that they produced these bangers, I think the more you look into a studio's history, you'll find that often is the case, where a studio who you normally write off as like, they made nothing but trash. There's usually something decent in there. Sometimes it just takes the right combination of direction and writers and financial assistance, etc. All right, so as the OVA progresses, we have more encounters with the Ijin. We take a trip over to India, where they fight against Genjo Sanzo, and they have their first encounter with sort of the major antagonist, EQ. EQ announces this major plan that the Ijin, sort of separate from Dokusensha and out of their control, they want to conduct this mass suicide symphony. They've managed to resurrect Ludwig von Beethoven, and he's going to play a certain song that would drive every person who's hearing it broadcasted to them to kill themselves. And they've got a massive amount of infrastructure hidden on this like artificial island off away from Hawaii, and it's cloaked in steam. Wild stuff. The OVA really is quite a bit more grand and fantastical than the TV series in some ways. But anyway, at this point, Yomiko finds out that, unfortunately, Nancy was a double agent for the Ijin, and in fact is an Ijin herself. She is the sort of resurrected form of Matahari. And so, despite she and Yomiko having warmed up to each other in some very precious ways, she now says, sorry, babe, I'm out. This was all, a facade, later. And so, off she goes to help with the fruition of this, terrible master plan. Yomiko and Drake storm the Ijin fortress in order to try to, stop this all from going off. They sort of pick off the remaining Ijin in the process. And we find out that Nancy actually is not one, but two clones. One of them is the one that Yomiko was getting close to. That's the older clone. And the other, the younger clone, is more loyal to EQ. And so the two of them fight each other. One trying to protect Yomiko and the other trying to, push along the plan. And it seems like our Nancy fails. She's seemingly left for dead, and Yomiko is in a life or death situation, trapped and almost drowned, but manages to escape. And the important thing is that with Drake's help, and everything, she gets onto this rocket that's being propelled up into the sky, where they're going to play the Suicide Symphony. It turns out that the Nancy who won the fight was the Nancy we know and love, the older of the two clones that's not so loyal to EQ. And so in the last moment, she betrays him. And I had forgotten to mention, but Nancy and EQ are supposed to have been in a relationship. So it's kind of digging the knife even deeper, for the Yuri fans out there. And for Yomiko, feeling like, the bond they had was fake or whatever. But in any case, Nancy betrays EQ, and they manage to put a stop to the symphony. Yomiko is able to escape with her life by parachuting out of the rocket, but Nancy is too gravely wounded to follow. She uses her dying energy to end things up in the rocket, and boom it goes, and that is that. However, after all is said and done, it turns out that the younger clone of Nancy survived and lost her memory. Yomiko goes to visit her in a care facility that she's being kept at, and starts to bond with her once again, and goes on to continue to take care of her even after the OVA is done. And that's basically what we get in there. Again, a lot more action-packed, much more tightly constructed. Grant, what did you think of the OVA?
It was fun. It was I think that it's a good way for people to get into the series, if they are not like super like, I don't know about it, I'll just check this thing out and see what you think about it. And I think it's good. I like you said, I think that without the downtime, it loses a little bit of that fun that I really like. But overall, it's a good time. But I think it coming into this background of what I did not know, it shows why Nene might like Yomiko. We see her as this kind, loving, intelligent woman who's also kind of a goofball, right? We see how efficient and deadly the British Library can be with their agents, and we see what Dokusho can do by themselves. And it kind of creates this new sense of, oh shit, what is going to happen next for the TV?
Yeah. Dokusensha. But you were on a roll. I didn't want to interrupt you.
I'm not gonna pronounce things correctly ever.
There's a lot of stuff in this show. Like, there's a lot of terms, a lot of books and manuscripts and things getting taken that are not always well defined. Like, I know maybe it looks bad that we're hyping this up so much and we're like missing facts here and there. Like, sorry, I don't remember which World War Otto Lilienthal was involved in, but like, it's pretty dense.
Yeah, there's a lot. And it is being adapted from a book that's also being written at the same time that has some inconsistencies.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard.
These adaptions, because they were made in parallel, are not necessarily like, it's not a straight adaptation, right? Like, they are legitimately different sort of forms of these things being converged in interesting ways. So you're getting a different experience between the light novel and the animated series and the manga. So it's a wild ride. So please forgive us for missing a few things here and there.
Yeah. So we come back to Read or Die the TV, where Nenene gets a lead on Yomiko, and then Wendy writes a report about Mr. Gentleman and the British Library, and we basically get sort of a run through of what the British Library wants to do with Mr. Gentleman and the iGen incident. But we also learn that the iGen were created by the British Library. And that's neat. And then she talks about the Paper Sisters and Yomiko. And during this time, Junior comes in, and he made a dinner for Wendy. And we sort of see Wendy as Joker's surrogate mom at this time.
Junior's
at
surrogate
least
mom.
Junior's surrogate mom.
Will later be
and,
Joker's surrogate mom, though. That is correct. It's just at a different
sorry,
time.
I was reading my notes and I saw Junior and Joker next to each other. And once again, we are going from a character who was probably in her late teens, early 20s in the first one, and the OVA, to being in her mid 20s, late 20s. And a lot has happened, so she's not necessarily an assistant anymore. She has a much more legitimized position in the British Library.
Yeah, she's Mr. Joker's right-hand arm man.
Yeah. Joker comes in and is like, hey, our plan worked. Dokusensha is dead. And Wendy, you gotta find Yomiko. Go find her.
Also, Hong Kong got, like, completely fucked up, but, like, whatever, we're the British Library, so...
Oh, yeah. So we get a fun little... This is where a lot of the spy stuff comes in. Because you told me earlier that Read or Die was initially supposed to be more spy-focused,
yeah,
right?
Sony had gone to them and been like, hey, we want a spy show with a female lead. And then the rest of this sort of developed out of it. Even to the point where, like, the anime, although that was what was first asked for, ended up spawning off the novel as, like, a groundwork for what the anime would do. Wild stuff.
Yeah. And so we get a fun little, like, fake ID hidden person thing where all the girls are wearing wigs and look different.
Gotta go undercover.
They're undercover, and it's fun. It's because they're trying to find Yomiko, and they find Yomiko in the National Diet Library, which is a real place, and it has nothing to do with diets. It is essentially Japan's Library of Congress,
mm-hmm. Which characters had stolen documents from before in the OVA.
Yeah. It is one of the largest libraries in the world, and they find Nancy there, or the clone of Nancy.
Yes,
Nancy,
the younger clone that survived and Yomiko took care of.
And we also find Yomiko, and I really dig that it didn't take long for them to find Yomiko, which is also why watching the OVA and then getting this immediately felt really, like, validating.
Yeah,
because it's like, who's this Yomiko? This is Yomiko. Welcome back, Yomiko. And we get a good reunion between Yomiko and Nenene. And it's cute. And then Joker shows up.
Yeah, short-lived.
And yeah, Joker's like, hello, I'm British and evil. Hand over the books that you have. And then Yomiko's like, hey, you are in a library with 4 paper masters. And they just beat the shit out of the British Library. And then Joker executes Plan Fahrenheit 451, which is, by the way, very on the nose.
Extremely.
and then they burn all of the books in Jimbocho. And Yomiko gets sad because she's like, all this knowledge is being lost. This part kind of missed on me, just because it's like, it's 2004. There's copies of these books, you know, like the knowledge isn't actually being burned because it's one place.
Well, I think with Yomiko, though, she's used to protecting documents which are that elusive, right? Stuff where they don't have copies, true. And you know, things that maybe are difficult to reproduce because their age. It's also worth mentioning that at this point, although Yomiko is indeed roughing it on this, Anita's having a full-on PTSD attack. Yes. She is experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder to the max.
Yes, because her earliest memory, as far as we know, is her seeing books burn, and there was a silhouette against it, and it turns out it's Yomiko.
And she lost her parents in that, too.
Yes. So Wendy and Yomiko have a little fight. Drake shows up. Like, he has not been in it at all until this point.
He was in that one mission in the first half where he was helping AAA, and he had one brush up with the Paper Sisters where he's like, you know, opposing them at that point in time, but then Sunny Wong shows up, the other paper master, who gets defeated at the climax of the show, and
that's right.
helps them sort of escape at that point. So he was in this sort of, if you had not seen the OVA, he's sort of in this like gray position in terms of like whose side is he on.
Who is this guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he shows up and immediately he's ride or die for Yomiko, which I love. They have like sort of a, because he's a professional. He's very much like, I'm here to get the job done. And Yomiko's like, let's fly on giant paper airplanes together. But he's ride or die for Yomiko, and I love that. Mm-hmm. I love that for
He'll
him.
bitch about it, but he is there for the money, and he's there for her as well.
And I love that. So and at this point, he's just here for her, because he's going against the British Library, and Dokusho's gone, right? Like, it's a very good character moment for Drake, and pretty much solidifies him as, like, a real one. Mm-hmm. So Drake helps them escape, and he's like, hey, do you have a place to hide? And Yomiko's, yeah, we can go to my parents' place. Which I think is funny, just because it's like, we never hear about her parents, but it's just like, oh yeah, my parents have a place in the mountains we can hide out. And I'm like, that's funny.
There's something very real about, like, you like, yeah, this character does have family, right? Like, she doesn't talk about them, but, like, she does have a mom and dad. And maybe they're well off enough that they have like a home somewhere else that, you know, they're not staying at right now. You know, exactly. You know, she's in her 30s, and that's the life she's in. You know, it's kind of brings things down to earth for a moment.
I liked it a lot. Junior shows up because he's trying to steal the book that they have. What's the book they're looking for exactly?
Oh, don't ask me this. You're gonna make us both look bad. Just say the book.
Well, it's like even on the wiki, it's just the special book. It's something to do with the IJ.
Okay, I'm gonna look it up.
All right.
Let's see. Wow. By the way, as I'm flipping through the official archive, which I'm glad, Grant, you suggested it by, because it's great. But we completely skipped past the guy in the first season, Weber, who had like a castle to himself where he was doing like
vampire shit, right?
Audio violence, yeah.
Yeah, like audio vampire shit.
Yeah,
he had like I remember him. Yeah, he sucked. I mean, he was a Doku Sensei guy, right? Like,
no, it was a Doku Sensei mission actually to go against him.
So, oh, right.
Yeah, he's kind of a
but
weird
yeah, he's
external element.
To me, it was like, hey, we have like it's one of the very few episodes that feel filler.
Yeah,
like it's like we need like they even talk about how it's like, oh, we got some time away for Nay to go do a mission. And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot. We got to make sure that you know that these girls are still doing jobs. It's fun.
Yeah, it sort of it pushes further that they are not feeling it with Doku Sensei, and that it stresses out some of the relationships between the sisters. So they kind of have like a falling out mid mission and have to come back together on that and learn something about each other, that sort of thing. So the book they're trying to get is the Book of the All-Seeing Eye, which Yomiko has in her possession.
Yeah. And so Junior shows up, and Junior, his phase ability doesn't work on Nancy. They both have the same power. He pulls out his Glock 19, which is his gun he has. I'm pretty sure. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I called out the gun when he had it, but I don't actually remember if it's a Glock or not. I'm being safe by saying that. And then Yomiko's like, "Don't shoot Nancy. That's your mom." And then it zooms out and the gun goes off and the episode ends. And that night I had to leave, and that sucked.
Yep.
I remember we were like, "No." We find out that Michelle stopped him, which is, I think, a good switch. That he didn't stop himself, someone else stopped him. But he clearly regrets shooting, and so Junior's like, "I'll help you fight." And after you get a little backstory that Yomiko knew that they were using Junior to be a vessel for the new Mr. Gentleman. And so Yomiko ran with Nancy because she tried to run with Junior and failed. And then we see that Junior like uses the book to like show a projection of what happened. And it's like Yomiko is actually the one that caused the fire, which is what killed Anita's family, which isn't great for her to see.
Also very stressful when they're all refugees right now and they have to be around each other.
Yes. We get a little bit more backstory, and a British library infiltrates the house and like is like, "Hey Junior, you gotta join us or bad things gonna happen." And Yomiko and Anita are the only ones that are still here because Anita ran into the woods and Yomiko was hiding. And then the mirror man who can shapeshift is like, "Hey, we need to get the book." And they find out that Nene is not Nene and it's actually a British guy. And then they fight. They stop all of the... they find out like most people are gone. And Anita and Yomiko are like, "Hey, we gotta go and break them out." Anita makes a paper airplane, which is great.
Yomiko builds it and she has to help like maintain it and control it.
It's a cute moment.
Yeah.
It's just another like small moment that didn't need to be done, but it is such like it did need to be done because it is a character moment, not a plot moment, and it really works.
Yeah, this is at a time where not only are these two characters sort of, opposed to each other with their background, right? Anita, is traumatized and living in the condition she's in because of Yomiko's direct action against the British Library. But additionally, they're juxtaposing Anita, who is repeatedly in the archive referred to as like a very mature kid, like well beyond her years. And we have Yomiko, who, in order to get them to safety, is not constructing, this, kind of gracefully designed, plane or a dragon or something like she's used to with Maggie. It's a fucking paper airplane.
It rips. It's so good.
In fact, this whole section, as they're out in the Japanese countryside in Saitama, is like we get a lot of time where characters who normally don't interact get to crisscross, and I really like that. It's the kind of thing that if someone would call it filler, I would immediately contest them on it. It's
important.
Yeah, it's bringing out things in these characters that they normally can't, and reinforces sort of like that they are real people that are really well fleshed out. So, but yes.
I do want to say that a lot of the a lot of the episodes are named after books.
Oh yeah.
Not everything, but some of them are. So like you have In a Grove, which is a Japanese short story about a young samurai who dies, and it's like a testimony of how he dies, and that is the episode where they're looking for a retired actor, and it's them trying to figure out what is happening, and everyone is kind of giving them different like answers, and Maggie is like accused of killing Michelle, and it's wild. There's Heart of Darkness, which is the episode where they follow the archaeologist who gets shot, and they meet Junior for the first time, and that was a Belgian book that was a critique of European colonialism and basically treasure hunting, which I think is really funny.
Yeah. By the way, the archive. It's funny that you mentioned this. On every single episode commentary page, they have a little bit of trivia explaining where the episode title came from, and like every single one has a note on it. You know, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
So sincerely, what Grant's describing is like this is consistent on.
It's very intentional, and we'll get into that when we get into the themes.
Also,
this is not
episode 10's just called A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Well, and I feel like we forgot to mention that, because even though it seems like a kind of an episode, it is about how the three sisters showed up, and it was because Michelle and Maggie, after teaming up, they find Anita starving in a church by herself, and then they work together, and that's how Nene got past her writer's block. I totally skipped over that very important moment.
I guess you'll just all have to watch the show.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, she got over her writer's block because she was like, man, these gals are just so good to each other. But you have the Family Game, which is a Japanese comedy, and which is the one where they are learning about the past. And then number 20, the one where we were just on, where they are on the helicopter, or they're on the paper airplane, and they watch the helicopter that has the Paper Sisters explode. And then Anita is like all blaming Yomiko, and she leaves. And that is named Bonjour Triste, which is Hello Sadness, and it's a French poem, or it's a French book about sadness and sick as hell. So after everyone's been split up through these interconnected dramas, Anita goes to the school, goes back to her school, and Hasami doesn't recognize her, which is her friend from school, the one that reads Anne of Green Gables with her. And then the next episode, we get sort of this mixture of like, Anita's at school, but we don't know why. Everyone's different. And Wendy of British Library goes to Anita, and she's like, hey, I can make this permanent for you. But you need to give me some tissue samples from yourself. And she says, fuck that. And she runs away, gets away from Wendy, meets up with Yomiko again. And they're like, hey, we need to solve this shit. And they take Joker hostage. And they go to rescue all the folks from their, Nancy, Michelle, and
Maggie,
all
and
them.
Nene, and Junior. Everyone's kind of gotten split off, and so some of them, they're all kind of like in this, thriller, like evasion and, planning to get back together, and they're all stuck in various ways. Is this about the part where Wendy blackmails Maggie to give up Nene?
Yeah, because at this part, everybody is separated. Yeah. It's, once again, this is another very spy moment, right? We have Michelle, Nancy, Drake, Yomiko, and Anita, they're getting back together. Maggie and Nene are hiding out. And then Wendy is like, hey, Maggie, I have Anita. We've captured her. And if you don't give me Nene, I'm going to kill her. They don't have Anita. And at this point, we get a lot of this gaslighting and lying that comes from the British Library, which I think is pretty good. So Nene gives up herself to save Anita, and now Wendy has Nene, and they have Joker. And so Wendy's like, hey, I'll give you Nene if you give me Joker. And then Joker starts telling Anita about her, and I put this in big quotes, backstory. And he's like, oh, Anita, you don't actually have any parents. You were born in a test tube, and we brainwashed Michelle and Maggie to take you in. And Junior says the same thing to Michelle, and that they were genetically altered to be paper masters. And then Maggie is also being told that from Wendy. And so they use Mirror Man so that they can get Joker back, and keep Nene. And then so they run away, but they have Nene, they have Joker, and Joker's like, all right, we're going to take over the world using books. And so we get to this part where they're like, all right, we gotta go to London, and they don't want to go because it's Britain. And Anita doesn't want to go because she's like, oh, I don't have my sisters with me. And so Nancy, Drake, and Yomiko head to London. Anita goes back to Nene's apartment, and Maggie and Michelle are there. And she's like, I don't even know why we're trying to hang out anymore. Our lives are all a lie. It's fake. And they're like, hey, does it matter? Like, they might not be fake. Joker's not exactly the most trustworthy guy. And even if some of them are fake, everything we've done, at least in Japan, is real. Or at least until we met each other, is real. So our lives might be fake to them, but they're real to us. And I love that part.
Yeah.
It's a great moment where Joker is trying to basically gaslight them into doubting it. And they're like, well, it doesn't matter. Our shared experience together is just better. And it fucking rips.
Yeah.
We get to the climax, and they infiltrate the British Library. Junior is now very much against the British Library, and they last resort try to hook up Junior to the Gentleman Resurrection Machine, and she's not super happy about doing this. Oh, I forgot to mention, there's some fucked up shit that happens.
Yeah, this last mission is wild. Lots going on, lots of moving parts.
So they get to the UK, and using the Book of the All-Seeing Eye and Nene's writing, they are able to turn the United Kingdom into like a 19th century version of it, based off of like Jules Verne and
all these legacy authors' works are sort of like being manifested in the city. People are wearing period accurate clothing. The architecture looks like it's of that era, and it's sort of accelerating from that backwards point, which for those who are just in it for the action, it's going to feel like, that's weird. Why would they revert it backwards if it's also just going to progress forward, right? But for the politically minded, there's definitely a reason for that.
Yes.
That's some MAGA shit right there.
Yeah, and it's very much intentional. I like I said, nothing about this show is unintentional. Obviously, it's not supposed to necessarily related to that in particular because it came out in 2004.
Right.
But
it's that traditionalist,
yeah, it's the trend, right? This has never gone away.
The height of the British Empire, and how are we going to do that? We're literally going to step back history and replay it from that point, and take this course in our own hands.
Right. And using the mythological greatness of the British works from this time.
And all the while they're having this world scale, this global scale diplomatic movement where the British Library is trying to sort of bring these other nations in on this plan for like unified knowledge, which in reality is to say like an intellectual domination that they're trying to do, right? Is a sort of indoctrination effort, which Joker and will sort of profess is like as this morally good thing he's trying to do, right? That if the world is wrought with misunderstanding and war and blah blah, then if only everyone thought the same, then we could have world peace. But of course, the way that this is being rolled out, it's it's imperialism, it's colonialism, it's attempting to pave over the sort of diversity of the world in order to inflict upon it this singular ideal for sophisticated civilization. Again, this is where they show their hand that they're politically adept in this writing. I really do think so.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about the writer of this program when we get it. But yeah, it's really good. And we also get a really fun kind of cutaway moment of the characters doing this quick montage of them looking for the secret the area of the British Library, dressed in era appropriate outfits. It's great. It's fun. It deserved to be a montage and nothing more, and I like that. Mm-hmm. So Junior is hooked up to be the new Mr. Gentleman. They are going to resurrect him to basically make it so that everything that we've written here is going to happen. They're going to rewrite the world using Mr. Gentleman, the Book of the All-Seeing Eye, and all of the shit that they've been talking about for the past 26 episodes. And Nene is like, hey, actually, I have everything I've written under my shirt. Also, we have 4 paper masters. Go the fuck nuts. And so they do a big old final fight. And Junior uses his powers of phasing to make Mr. Gentleman go into Joker, and it just kills him.
Just too much knowledge for one brain.
Yeah, the resurrection device tries to use Anita, tries to kill her, it doesn't. The British Library explodes, and the entire thing is kind of swept under the rug. Everything kind of goes back to normal, and we get to see a little prologue where Wendy is helping nurse Joker back to life. It ends kind of vaguely with that, and I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do remember that there was a potential sequel to this that they never wrote, so that might have had something to do with it. We get to see Yomiko and Nene hanging out. We see Michelle taking care of Junior. We see Drake visiting his daughter, being, top dad. We see Maggie, Anita, and Michelle at Nene's house. We see Anita back at the school, and then we see the the initial of Maggie, Anita, and Michelle's names carved into the statue at the church that they found Anita in, which implies that Joker was lying the entire time and just trying to gaslight them, which fucking rips, because the entire purpose of the British Library was to rewrite history so that the British colonialism never fell. It's a great full circle. And then the show's over, and I wanted more so badly.
Yep. So why don't you go ahead and give any final thoughts on, the story overall that you haven't already touched on?
I will say, coming into this, it is National Writers Month here in the great time of November.
Wow.
I really like that this is a very much book-focused show. It's almost completely on the nose, but I think that's okay. The character designs are great. Plot stuff is a lot of fun. I want to talk about production after this.
Yeah, we can do that.
Because I think it helps kind of praise what I love about the show. But overall, I also started writing more after watching the show. I got back to editing some of the stuff I've done. There's just something really inspiring about the show and making me want to write characters. And I, wrote some small slice of life shit just because of this whole thing. And I think that is a testament to the show's themes and its production.
There's something very powerful about lots of women.
Yeah.
On the topic of sort of the meta aspect on writing in books and stuff, I am glad that it held a lot of restraint. There's maybe like one part I can think of where they're actually, talking about storytelling as like, in this literal sense of like how a person is made. I think it's when Joker is trying to reveal the secret behind Anita's past and stuff, right? But outside of that, it doesn't like break the fourth wall to talk about stories. It's not lampshading jokes about, haha, isn't this just like a novel? It holds its tone, right? And I really do appreciate that, because it'd be very easy to make all sorts of ridiculous book puns and jokes and things that like sort of would unseat you from the immersive experience of the show. So I'm glad they had some restraint on that.
Yes.
I'll let's see. Just some other overall thoughts before we get into the production quality. Fucking unbelievable to me, like how far above my expectations this went. Like, again, when I watched the OVA, I was like, yeah, that was all right. I kind of don't exactly know where this is politically landing, because at the time, in that OVA, the British Library is kind of your opposing force to the enemy, right? And so I'm like, is this pro-imperialism? Like, what are we getting at? It's Britain versus Japan in this way, where it's set up between Joker and EQ as the main forces. And then we have this like half British, half Japanese characters sort of spearheading this attack against that. And it's just kind of like, I was like, I don't know. I don't have enough data. The TV series brought the data, and it's good. Completely, again, surpassed my expectations. And I'm glad that it's not just an action thriller with a political veneer. Like it's and of course, like, everything is political, right? Like it's, if you create something of a context that's political, but I mean,
not Fallout.
It's the politics I like. And I like that it rewards you for, not just saying, yeah, the curtains are blue because they're blue. It really wants you to like be taking these things in. Like, I'm glad that it's dense in the way it is, that I have to really like dig into it to understand what they're getting at. it is a stimulating show to watch. If you take it seriously, then it drives you to go learn stuff. And not just like, oh, who is this historical figure, but also what are the political implications of this figure taking this role in this story. Like EQ is like was an important religious figure and a vagrant, and now to put him in this situation where he's spearheading a mass suicide, like, what is that communicating, right? Why even use historical figures for the Aegean when we could just make up whoever we want, right? A little side note on that piece of trivia, they couldn't use hardly any American figures for that because they have portrait rights on a lot of historical American figures, which means they couldn't go and depict those people without getting in hot water. And so then they opted for German characters instead. What does that say, right? Like,
right.
Whenever you're like
the fact that
you dig away at what this show has, and it reveals so much about what it's trying to get to, right? Why is India and why is Hong Kong, a major site of conflict, right? Gee whiz, I wonder, we should go look up the year that Hong Kong got its independence from Britain, right? Why is Joker's plan about leading London through this restarted historical era, as we talked about? There's so much to chew on, right? And I really sincerely hope, because I don't know 100%, that these things that I'm feeling align with my own political values also are something that the author values. If we were to be differing on that, then oh well. My life should not revolve around being validated by fiction, right? But it is very nice to have that happen. It feels really fucking good. So yeah, high praise from me.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the writer, the guy that created this whole entire thing. You've probably seen a show that he's been involved in. And that is Hideyuki Kurata. He mostly does adaptations. And there's not a ton about... Like, I couldn't find a lot of interviews with him, but his scripts that he's written for adaptations include Made in Abyss, Hellsing Ultimate, things that people know. I mean, Drifters, The World God Only Knows. Hold on, these are all the Eden of Garden. He did Read or Die. He did Goblin Slayer. And there's other ones that he's done. Gun X Sword, which is his other work he's written. He did he did Oremo. He did Dragon Crisis, and the person that did Dragon Crisis, the character designer, is also the Read or Die designer. He did Doll's Frontline. He does a lot.
And some of those names might have you a little concerned.
And I was worried too, because I am not a fan of Goblin Slayer. I do like The World God Only Knows. I have mixed feelings, hard mixed feelings on Made in the Abyss. He did XL Saga, that's the other thing he did. And I looked into him, and he talked about how, because he only does like the series compositions, right? He just does the scripts and how the characters talk to each other and how you can translate this from manga. But the reason that he seems to get picked for this stuff is he's very much a believer in keeping with the author's intent, even if he doesn't like it. He talked about how when he was writing Made in the Abyss for series compositions, he wasn't a big fan of some of the choices. And he didn't really like some of the ways they treated their characters. And he said, but it's not my choice to change that. Which I do have a that's a strong moral standpoint for that. And what's neat about it is that is a lot of Read or Die as well. There's a lot of that DNA in Read or Die. Mm-hmm. And I dig that a lot.
It's almost, would you say it's sort of like anarchist leaning a little bit of like
it does remind me a lot of, you know, how like Nestor Makhno acted in the Ukraine, because he hated Lenin, right? He did not like Lenin. But when there was a time when one of his followers beat up a guy for talking about Lenin in the universities, and then he got mad at him because he said basically like, hey, I don't like Lenin. I don't think his policies are what we should strive for. But if this guy is saying that, then I don't see why we should be mad at him for saying that. That's his opinion. And I dig that. I think there's a lot of anarchist leaning to it. And, you know, I just also think it's just the consistent libertarian, like the true meaning of libertarian thought, where, you know, if there is a differing of how you would do something, you can critique it, you can combat it, you can talk about it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are inherently in the right, or it is your duty to stop people from saying that. And obviously, you know, there's some nuance in it, but I do, for especially when it comes to art, even if it is things that I do not like, I do think that there is I think that's a good moral backbone to have, especially when you are primarily being brought in to translate other people's art. And if he didn't want to, he wouldn't do it. And I dig that about him.
Yeah, I think that there's in this story is talking about, you know, fabricated backstories and, you know, genetic splicing and things like that. And the raised point about, you know, what does it mean to sort of not own your faculties? Maybe this feels like a stretch, but at the very least, I think there's a point to be made about, like, if you do carry something on, you know, like, as you said, do with it what you can, you know, what you maybe feel driven to, but the fact that the original's being maintained gives you that capacity to face it in what it is, right? You're not getting someone's watered down version of it. And of course, that's not to speak against transformation of work either, you know, but it's just to say, like, you know, I think in the length of this podcast, it's something that I've changed my opinion on, you know, at least more than once. And I can appreciate it, right? Like, yeah. Anyways. And it's something I think that can work on an organized level too, you know.
One of the things that he talks about when he was making Nenene, these are some other things, I've just been talking about it. There's a couple of things when he chose the way he wanted his characters to be depicted. So to start, he talked about how Nenene, when he first wrote Nenene, she was a teenager. And when he was writing the TV series, he was like, oh dang, Nenene is not the same character. Not in the sense that it isn't a different character that he wrote, but he's like, this is a quote from him, the young, energetic, soulful, dynamite girl turned into a not fully burning, stagnating woman. And I thought this, and he's basically like, and I think that's something that everyone goes through when they are growing up.
Yep.
And I think that's a really good way to look at it. And then he also when he's talking about Wendy, because people were mad that Wendy was no longer this comic relief blunder maker, right? She was competent. And he says, he's like, when the tension of Read or Die was getting high, I thought she was the kind of character who would break things down. He's like, I didn't write this much, but now that she's a more mature and competent and capable, I think that we want to show that. And he's like, I think that the cast members are much older in the TV show, and so she probably would get less clumsy. But the thing that she had in the first one was her strong will, and that wouldn't have changed as she got older. And I think that's great.
Yeah.
When he was talking about making the Paper Sisters, people were upset because it was no longer the main casts. He was like, we wanted to do 26 episodes. We could not do the action from the OVA, so we wanted something more dialogue heavy. And he wanted to focus on Nay 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 almost entirely. But he's like, well, we need someone to tie it into the overarching magical thing. So he created the 3 Paper Sisters. And he based off their designs from Izumi Takamoto, who is a very, very prolific manga designer, and he's been in the game for quite some time. His big thing is he did the remake of Anamitsu Hime, which he did the remake in 1986. But he's sort of this moe, tomboyish author for a lot of things. And his most recent work is he was the character designer for Apocalypse Hotel. So that's a fun little thing. But that's who he designed the characters off of. He's like, I wanted to change the look. He's like, the people that were into the OVA, I wanted them to like this new thing, but I didn't want to just make it for, and he joked, older men and older women. He wanted it to be something that everyone could latch on to. Which I think is neat. And he names the stuff after a lot of things. So the Paper Sisters are named after 3 popular Hong Kong actresses, Michelle Yeoh, Maggie Cheung, and Anita Mui. And he never specifically said that that's what they were named after, but everyone's like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
He did say that there were some things that he wanted to work in, but he couldn't through their back. And one of the other things I really wanted to talk about is how the dub was done. If you have anything you want to bring up before I move on to this, I'm welcome to. But the dubbing is a very interesting thing for me.
Go for it.
Okay. So, when they dubbed it, this was dubbed by New Generation Pictures. They're a defunct dubbing thing. They've kind of, they're mostly ADR, and they work with people. They're still around, and they work on localization. So when the U.S. got a hold of it, the English staff at NGP wanted to cast British people for the British characters. So Yomiko's English actor and I think Joker's English actor are British. They are actually British people. Mm-hmm. So their accents are genuine. And they also wanted to cast child characters. Now this took me a while to look up because a lot of these voice actors are not in the game anymore. And so some of their information is a little bit hard to parse from, but every single child character in this show and that includes Hasami, who I did not think was a child because her voice was so high pitched it sounded like an adult doing a child voice. That was done by a gal who was born in like 1993, so she was 11 when she voiced Hasami. And the gal that voiced Anita, Rachel Hirschfield, was 12 when she did Anita. It took me a while to find it because they have her birthday as 1978, and that is not accurate. And the reason I was able to find that is that she worked with some of the other voice actresses, and I was able to find their actual birthdays. So all the children in this dub were actual children, which is makes for some more genuine believability. I thought that Anita was really, really good. And I thought that Toko, who was she's a minor character who's a sister of another writer, I thought she was really good. And so some fun stuff about it is that we get these people. JB Blanc voices Joker, and he is a native of North Yorkshire. Helena Taylor is the voice actor of Yomiko, but she's only the voice actor in the TV show, not the dub. The OVA. The OVA was different. And she was a London Academy in Music and Dramatic Arts graduate. And so all these people, Lee Everest was the voice of Drake, and he really liked voicing Drake because he was usually typecasted as a gruff, like, military guy, and he thought it was fun to have a character who was like a typical action hero during the day and like a father at night. And so with this, the voice acting actually received a ton of rewards back in 2004. It was during the ADR awards. They do Actresses of the Month, where all three of the Paper Sisters won, as well as JB Blanc and Helena Taylor for Yomiko. The entire ensemble got Dub of the Year. And a lot of people will say that the dub is better than the sub, just because there is a lot of emotion in it. And like I said, I think it's really, really impressive how genuine Anita sounds. I think that Maggie is able to do like a really convincing monotone that doesn't feel boring. She's quiet, not boring, and it works. And then the gal that voices Michelle does a really good job at that airheadedness, but when she gets serious, it's super good. I just think this dub is fantastic. And coming out in 2004, we don't have a lot of dubs like this at this time. Like, you know, you have Full Metal Alchemist coming out around this time. You have Cowboy Bebop. But there is something about this dub that I think is super duper important. And I find it fascinating how they did it.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, on the OVA side of voice acting, there's some interesting trivia there too, just in the sense that there was a lot of these voice actors sort of crossing paths. I wonder if maybe they worked in the same production studio or had similar agents or something, but for one, Samantha Tabak voiced Wendy in the OVA and then went on to voice Nenene in the TV, which I think she killed it as Nenene, so I'm glad she came back for that, you know, and took on a new role. I can't imagine anyone else, you know, doing Nenene's voice.
Well, and to me, that sounds like they were like, hey, we liked you. We want to get a British actress for this.
Mm-hmm.
But would you like to be Nenene?
Yeah. And
I think she did a great job.
I'm going to try to run through these really quickly. Because I just kind of was like, I went down the rabbit hole of just trying to figure out who kept reappearing in different shows. And it's not always consistent with like this person and this person were in, always in the same show together, but they kind of, there's this mix where they're coming back around the same thing. So in Neon Genesis Evangelion, we have Kimberly Yates, who was OVA Yomiko, Amanda Wynn Lee, who was OVA Nancy, Jason C. Lee, who was OVA Drake. There is Gunsmith Cats, who had Kimberly Yates, again, that's OVA Yomiko, Amanda Wynn Lee, OVA Nancy, yet again, and Jason C. Lee, OVA Drake. In Dot Hack Sign, we have Crispin Freeman, who is OVA Joker, and is still voice acting to this day, doing a lot of stuff. Douglas Rye, who is OVA Jean-Henry Fabre, and Amanda Wynn Lee, who is OVA Nancy. Dead Leaves has Douglas Rye, who is, again, OVA Jean-Henry Fabre, Hal Lublin, who is OVA Otto Lilienthal, Chad Pfeiffer, who is OVA Genjo, Amanda Wynn Lee again, OVA Nancy, Jason C. Lee, OVA Drake. But it's not always the exact same people, right? Because that one's like, Joker's not there, Yomiko's not there, but Nancy's there, and these are like, it's fascinating to me that they kind of were rotating around these productions. Burn Up W had Kimberly Yates, OVA Yomiko, Amanda Wynn Lee, who was OVA Nancy. They ended up being together a lot, and Jason C. Lee again, OVA Drake. So they're kind of a trio that stuck around. By the way, Burn Up W also had Spike Spencer, who is not involved in Reader Die, but was Shinji in Neon Genesis Evangelion. Tiffany Grant was also in Evangelion. And she also voices in Devil Hunter Yoko, which included OVA Yomiko and OVA Nancy, Kimberly Yates and Amanda Wynn Lee. There's also worth mentioning that Tiffany Grant was also in Ava, as well as Devil Hunter Yoko and Burn Up W. And then there was S. Cryad, which had Crispin Freeman, OVA Joker, and Carrie Savage, who was TV Nancy. I just had to get that out of my system because I thought it was so interesting how there were these reoccurrences of actors.
Right.
Yeah. This is a trivia-heavy episode today.
Very much so. I mean, but I think that's one of the things about this show that is so fascinating to me, because it's, at this point, 21 years old, right? Mm-hmm. But there's so much to it that is just so beautiful and so well crafted and so perfect for this kind of media. Yeah. And the fact that I don't think we see shows made like this all that much anymore is telling. And I understand that, we're looking at people wanting to turn a profit and make the next big thing that they can make into a gacha game and all that stuff. But, we don't get 26-episode anime anymore. Well, we barely get 24-episode anime. And
unless you're Frieren.
Unless you're Frieren, but...
Or Witch Watch. Witch Watch was also 2 core, which is kind of surprising, but...
True. But you don't get it from anime originals or things that are kind of balancing the line of all this stuff, right? It is, hey, we're going to make Frieren a 2 core because we know Frieren's going to sell, right? Anime originals don't really get that anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a bummer because it is a good number of episodes.
Fun fact, in the archive, they show that the Paper Sisters each have 33 unique outfits. That's more than 1 outfit per episode. However, this does make cosplaying Nene an absolute nightmare, and I will never forgive them for that.
Even shows like, Madoka, which I love. Could it have benefited from 24 episodes? Probably not. I think it's good. But who knows, right? Who the fuck knows?
Maybe it should have had 15.
I just wish
Reign of the Seven Spellblades.
I think 15 is bad. I think 15 is bad. Little Witch Academia had 24, and I thought that was fantastic. Because you get to have these slower moments where you get to learn about the characters, and it doesn't feel like you're wasting time.
You can soak in it.
You get to soak in it.
Yeah.
You get to soak in it.
You want to talk about themes?
Well, yeah, let's talk about themes.
Okay. Some themes that I felt were recurring throughout the series. One, community and non-nuclear families. There's times in this show where the typical relations people have are fraught by danger, and people are torn apart from each other, and so they have to find their ways, as we've mentioned so many times so far, to get along and to close these gaps, even if it involves being vulnerable, right? Because ultimately, what makes them more vulnerable than everything is the state abandoning them as its people, for its patriotic cultural necromancy and its imperialistic sort of ventures, right? Like when that's happening, then and what we're kind of in right now is people kind of have to start rebuilding at this ground level, right? You work with who's next to you, you work with your neighbors, and even when we have like people either really or not really being artificially created, or being given these radical backgrounds in the case of the Aegean, right? Those people will tend to go AWOL until they find these connections, right? Like there's a reason why Nancy as an Aegean was went this sort of like separatist sort of extremist direction until she met Yomiko, and then things changed, right? There's something about the Paper Sisters narrative that strongly resembles that, and Nene getting folded into that. Sorry, paper pun. But like, for real, I think that's a strong undercurrent of everything that's going on here. And not to mention, it's women's relationships that are so boldly a part of this. Extremism is another sort of major factor in this story, that I think gets sort of reflected in interesting ways, and not just in sort of like we're going to make a big event that resembles something that happened in real life, and so you're expected to have the same reaction to it here as you did then, because it's still a very fantastical show, but it is built off of real historical bones. I think it's notable how when characters are put under extreme pressure, there are these different directions they'll take. Sometimes the same character will do something you normally wouldn't expect them to. So like when say we're in the late half of the story and characters feel like they have to betray each other, when Maggie turns over Nene because she thinks they have Anita, it doesn't feel like that belies Maggie's strength, but it is sort of this this depiction of what this does to a person. And all the same, there's all these positive extremes that the characters go to as well, when they're accepting each other into their homes or into refuge. They're going for these great lengths to protect each other, even though they might not know each other that well yet, or they might not be on completely even terms. There are times where they're sure driven to violence or these unwanted alliances, but ultimately there is this understanding that you'll sort of stick up for each other, and you choose trust or mercy in these important times. I mean, even when we look at like Wendy and Joker and where they end up, right? Like, despite it all, Wendy decides to continue to take care of Joker when he's no longer in an able mental state. I think it goes to what the author had said about Wendy as a character, where although she's been guided to this political extreme where she's defending the British Empire and pushing it forward, that there's still some core in her that hasn't been lost, Like that willingness can go both ways, right? That willfulness that's in her.
She also did say that if Junior retains his personality after Mr. Gentleman takes over, that she would get revenge on everybody for this. I think that it is interesting that she's willing to help the British Library do this, but also is ready to kill for Junior if so need to be. It's an interesting dynamic that is awesome.
There's these and every character has these really messy moments, right? Michelle's breakdown about how she doesn't get to be, an emotional person, because she's constantly trying to be the big sister for everybody, like, as much as this show captivated me, I didn't really cry hardly ever, but that one got me. I teared up at that.
That one's intense.
So yeah, I think it's interesting how there's that spectrum, right, that they present here. It's I would say an overall leftist show, but it's really good at depicting what lengths people get pushed to, right, and fuzzes things up a bit. We also like to talk about disability depiction when we see it in shows. I think this one's an interesting case and a little bit of a tough nut, because ultimately the characters who are being depicted with physical disabilities are mostly in antagonistic roles. So we have EQ, who's walking with a staff. We have Mr. Gentleman, who's in a wheelchair, and Joker, who in the TV series after the attack on the British Library walks with a cane. So, all the characters with mobility aids are mostly adversarial to the protagonists. But I want to say that they don't hold that against them. And I if anything, I think it's a sympathetic part of those characters. The fact that Joker was, in fact, permanently injured by Yomiko's attack is something that, she has to face every time she sees him in the future. I would say, her attack on the British Library is justified in this, understanding the British Empire is this terrible and violent thing on a systemic level. But she has to live with the understanding that, she disabled a person. When we look at, say, EQ, that's not only something that, maybe uses a mobility aid, but it's also, part of his background as a religious figure and as a wanderer, a vagabond, historically, as far as we know. Even Mr. Gentleman being in a wheelchair, is someone who's holding on advanced medical technology and knowledge. So I want to say that they, despite how things are stacked, that it's not a commentary on disability. If someone were to feel differently, I wouldn't blame them at all. I think I could be swayed on it for sure. But at the very least, I don't think it's an offensive part of the show. It doesn't feel like it's casting a comment on disability by how this sort of turned out. I guess it's worth mentioning maybe that Yomiko wears glasses, so she has, a vision deficiency. And again, that's not held against her. It's not, they really don't do anything with it. It's not like she has a Velma moment where she loses her glasses and can't see. So debatable on how these things really affect, the overall story. But I do think that they're at least meaningfully implemented. It doesn't feel like they're just there to be there or to punch down. There's also, in terms of mental ability, both Nancy and Joker, are put into states where they lose most of their mental faculties. And in Nancy's case, it's mostly amnesia, and she's able to sort of rebuild a life for herself Yomiko's help. And although, being self-sustaining is difficult in that state, Yomiko's there for her, and she never belittles her. She never is like, she never, makes, comments like you can't be a good mother to Junior while you're in this state or anything like that, right? There's no blame. It's just the circumstances are as they are. And that doesn't, affect how these characters sort of unconditionally will love each other. And this is not even touching on whether these characters are on the spectrum, but maybe we should touch on that.
I was actually going to mention we should probably go over the characters just like a little bit.
Yeah.
Not like as in depth. I was even just saying like the 5 main girls.
Oh, God,
right?
I want to talk about everyone, Grant.
I know, but we are at 2 hours and 10 minutes of recording.
No, okay. So, just broadly speaking, how many characters in the show do you think are like not on the ASD ADHD spectrum somewhere?
Nene is completely neurotypical, and I think she exists so that you as the watcher are like, everyone else. You know the meme where it's like, at least I'm the only normal one here, and everyone is thinking that. This is not true for the show. She's the only one thinking that. I don't know,
but she's also depressive, right? Like,
yeah, right. She is depressive. She is stuck. But I'm saying, like, I don't think she's like on the spectrum. I don't think she has ADHD. Yeah. I think she's sad that her girl failure of a crush disappeared, and she's worried. She has the worry that she'll never be as good as she was, which I think is a little bit more universal than being tied to any particular neurodiverse thought. You know, I just think
since we are low on time, I will say this: in the archive, the official archive, it says that Yomiko, quote, has a tendency to intensely focus on one thing at the expense of anything else that might require her attention, end quote.
Yeah, Yomiko is absolutely on the spectrum. Yeah. I'm saying no.
Yeah,
I just
since we can't go and talk about every character in depth, in that way.
Yomiko's on the spectrum. Nene, I think, is a great. Nene is one of the best characters in my opinion. Just as a person who was once a child and now an adult, something that is only unique to me and me alone. Having that feeling of not living up to your potential is a really, really real thought that I think everybody has. And seeing it so manifested in this character without it taking away from her silliness is great. I love the episode where they're trying to like convince her to stay in her house, and she's like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, get out. I want to be alone." But then she's like, "Fine, you can be in it, but here are my incredibly specific things that I really don't care if you do or not. I just want to fuck with you." I love that shit.
Do you think Nene would have been okay if she got cats?
No. They would be too easy for her. I think Nene loves the chaos in her life because then she can go, "Sorry I'm late. My adopted 13-year-old sister threw all my books on the floor." I think she loves that. She pretends she doesn't, but she does. But Nene is a great realistic character. She's a great grounding character. I like that they never give her powers.
Yes.
I like that she never fights. I like that she is... But she's not a damsel in distress.
Yeah, she will shit talk in the middle of someone getting their ass kicked because that's what she can contribute, right? She will like taunt the shit out of whoever's getting thrashed, despite the fact that it will draw attention to her and put her in danger. She cannot help herself.
Yes.
Oh God. I love Nene. She's so sexually dry that the slightest inconvenience causes her to crack, and she's having this midlife crisis at like, what, 23 is what you said? 23.
Yeah, yeah, she's 23,
and this whole time she's wondering how she fumbled the most easy to please and difficult to read girl in the entire world, and all the while she's having actual attempts on her life. And she's being inducted into a superhero sisterhood, like, against her will. That's, like, character of all time description, you know?
She's...
God.
It is insane that for the first half of the show, they picked the two like, main, like, focus characters to be her and Anita.
Yeah.
And I think that is an incredible dynamic.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if this is in the show, but the archive says that she has a locket that has a photo of Yomiko inside. And she we see in the photos, like, when she's in high school, that she's not wearing glasses, but then she goes on to wear glasses that match Yomiko's. What is she talking about? Oh, yeah. Her friends are joking, like, where's your girlfriend? And she's like, she's not my girlfriend. Gay ass woman.
I do like that in 2004 she's like, I gotta find this person, and Anita's like, is she your girlfriend? Like, no joking, no, like when Anita asks that, it is completely sincere.
Yeah.
She's like, no, and Anita's like, sounds made up, but okay. I dig that. Let's talk about the Paper Sisters. Let's talk about Michelle. Let's start with her. Michelle is ADHD. I don't think she's autistic. I just feel like she's got that impulse buy shit that I have all the time, but she's pretty socially adept. I do think it's funny. One of the things about her that Kurata said is that she's like, oh, I thought she was kind of like, when I wrote her, I kind of wanted to make her like the sexy older sister type. Weird thing to say, Kurata, I gotta be honest. But she's like, but she kind of became the useless older sister. And I'm like, yeah, that fits. I do like that when she was trying to convince them to live, she's like, hey, I'm going to wear this traditional Chinese dress and make food for you. Also, I used your money to buy the food.
Yeah. It really is just like the perfect sort of blending point between those two archetypes. I love that she's also the one that brings things to a three sisters vote, you know, like, I think in some ways, like, it might feel like she's the most bland of the sisters, but, like, her role is keeping things kind of moving when otherwise Maggie might shy away or Anita might give up, you know, like,
yeah. I think the moment where she breaks down is a completely redefining moment for her. And it's wild that it took that, like, it's not wild that it took that long, but the fact that they held that in the chamber until the very end of the show, completely changes her as a character, and
yeah, that's
amazing.
I love the thing that she pulls on her own cheek, you know, as if, like, you know, what someone might do to, like, tease someone else, but she's doing it to herself because, like, you know, she is in charge ostensibly, you know.
Yeah, so she's like someone's gotta tease me, and
that's her burden, right? Me. She's basically punishing herself, and it's funny and it's sad at the same time, you know.
Yes. Pretty good. Anything else for Michelle?
No, we can move on.
She's good. She's fun. I like when they think that they found Yomiko because they're like, someone's buying up all the books, and it's just her.
Yeah,
like that shit. Maggie. What do you think of Maggie?
Maggie is the perfect name to shout out.
Yes,
it's like,
and I'm glad.
Coming away from the show, I would just be like walking around doing my business, you know, doing work each day, and I was thinking, like, I just keep hearing the characters shout out Maggie's name. It's just such a it's such a name like that, you know, like, although, like, I wouldn't say that Maggie is necessarily my favorite character. She kind of is. Like, for some reason, like, she just stuck in there, right? Like, She's such a likable person. I would want to hang out with Maggie in real life, kind of thing.
Yeah. She's definitely autistic.
Absolutely.
You know, wanting to be in tight, quiet spaces so that she can focus, not really wanting to talk to people. I love her. I love that she's 6'1". I just think that's good. I like a tall character. And I do agree with like the context of her being quiet and a little monotone but not emotionless, and I think that rips so hard.
Yeah.
I do think her best moment was when she was partially ready to turn in Nene and then just decided, no, I don't want to. And also, just so you know, she's inspired by Sakaki from Azumata Daioh.
Oh, cool.
So that's fun.
Yeah. Hey, I found in the official archive that originally, when they were doing design drafts for her, one of her earlier drafts was Junior's design. So like originally she had like longer hair, you know, like, and then they were like, it doesn't really fit, and so they just made that Junior instead.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I also want to mention I love that she's the one who makes familiars, like, as this like quiet and reserved person who has this like delicateness about her. I think it makes sense that she's the one who would be creating these really intricate crafting, you know, like it's something that's like living basically, right? But it's all through fine control. I think as like her being such an introspective person, it makes sense that she would do that. But it also plays into this interesting contrast where she's that gentle giant, right? Like she, you know, has like a shyness about her, but if you fuck with her friends, then, you know, she will not hesitate to, you know, to break out the big guns or the big
she definitely is the one that is ready to go in for the kill, I feel like, more than anyone else.
And she does that in the Sunny Wong fight, you know, against the other paper master.
She does not hold back, and I really like that about her. I like when they wear their fancy outfits. Hers is a suit.
Yeah, it's so good. By the way, Maggie's only 19? Michelle is only 23? They should be at the club.
They should be at actually no, they would not like the club. Michelle
should be at the book club.
I do, one of the things I do wish we got to see an episode where Michelle and Nene got to let loose and like go get drinks or something. I think that would have been fucking awesome.
Oh, I thought you meant beat the shit out of each other.
No. But maybe.
But, yeah.
But no, I just think that this, because one of the things I do like about this show is that it does have a pretty large variety of character ages. And I think they do a good job at showing that.
Yeah.
I feel like Anita is 12. I feel like Michelle and Nene are in their early 20s. I feel like Maggie is in that kind of weird transitional period between a teenager and an adult. It's just that I feel like we focus, and as much as I do like Anita stuff, I wish we got to focus on a little bit more of Maggie and Michelle.
Also, we have Mr. Gentleman who's pulling up the average age by like 50.
He was born in 1850. He's old as hell.
That fucks up the stats hard. You want to talk about Anita?
Yeah, let's talk about Anita. I think Anita is gonna be a little bit longer because I was going to mention a couple of other characters using her. Anita is.
Did you want to talk about Yomiko first, or?
No, I think Yomiko fits as the kind of final nail in the coffin of this thing because she's important as hell. Anita is one of the most believable child characters I've ever saw. I work with kids. I talk to a lot of kids. It's my job. I love that she tries so hard to be mature, tries so hard to be like put together, and also just collects plush frogs. That is so fucking real for kids. You know, where they're like, hey, I want you to take me seriously. Also, I have 5 CDs and they're all Frog.
Yeah. That character has a name. Hold on. It's Mr. Froggy.
That's great.
Yeah, according to the archive, Mr. Froggy is the star of a fictional Japanese anime. Of course, she has the cassette tape collection of the anime's theme songs.
That's funny as
Yeah,
hell.
they have a whole section that's just dedicated to talking about the different Mr. Froggy merchandise.
I also like that this takes place in 2005, 2006. It takes place in the times, and she still uses cassette tapes.
Yeah.
Cassette tapes have been out of vogue for a while at that point, which makes me feel like she specifically had to get these from a record shop or some shit.
Yeah.
That's so good.
It's so good.
But yeah, I really like Anita. I like seeing her kind of have this really early romance with Junior and what's her other friend's name?
Hisami.
Hasami. I like the kind of awkward, I'm not entirely sure if this is something I want, but it's gonna make me blush and feel weird, and it's super realistic. I like her mini outfits. I like her as a character. She's fun. She was, like I said, I think that having her and Nene be sort of the titular focus characters works really well.
Yeah. I agree that she's so well written, right? She's this character that doesn't have the privilege of a simple life, or even a safe one for that matter, but it is an educational life. She is constantly learning, and you see that as the series goes on,
Yeah.
And even though she's always projecting maturity, right, you do get these moments where you see that she's clearly made a step up, right? Whether it's starting to read books after having that traumatic past with them, or starting to open up to certain characters, whether it's Nene or if it's Kisa or her classmates that maybe she doesn't get along with, but she finds ways to just sort of get by, and then it becomes something that's more casual. It's really great. There was something else I had wanted to mention with her. It's like a bit of trivia or something. I don't remember. I do think when it comes to her and her dislike of books, I know that might seem kind of hokey for this series to be oh yeah, this character, has a traumatic memory of a book burning where she lost her parents and therefore she hates books. It's it feels very, maybe in some ways kind of childish writing, the kind of thing that you might get in a plot twist of a preschool.
It's got singing killed my grandma energy from the Trolls movie.
Yes, exactly. But I think what it's getting right is that it's not that Anita really does literally hate books, right? It's that she has something else that she's grappling with, and books is what makes sense, right? It's easier to say I don't want to have anything to do with a book, because then that would require confronting these terrible things that she can't entirely process at this age or without assistance, right? And so it's easiest to just say I hate them, right? That's her way of articulating what is a more complex and unhandled trauma that she's dealing with. Yeah.
And there's also a little bit of like that early teenage rebellion, right? Where
Yeah.
Her sisters who have
I don't like
essentially
what my
raised
sisters
her.
like.
Yeah. It is a little silly, but there is a little bit more nuance to it that I think works. But if on the surface, it does give me some singing "Killed by Grandma," okay, energy.
Yeah.
Great character. Yomiko. Let's get Yomiko in on this.
Yomiko. Another character that I originally kind of worried was like, oh, she's so archetypical. She's kind of bland. The same fear I kind of had with Michelle. Especially going through the OVA originally. She hadn't really completely like sort of saturated in my mind, but I think that here's the thing. She reads as this like comically helplessly moe person who's also unbelievably skilled, and that's something we get with shonen protagonists a lot. It's like someone who's like, oh, like he's stupid, but when the going gets tough, he kind of gets this clarity, right? But the thing is, the genius decision they did here was that Yomiko is a woman, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, but for real, I love that Yomiko is this community figure more than she's just her, right? Like, it's one thing to go and make like, oh yeah, she's the hero of the day because she stopped accidents from happening or saved us from disasters, but what she's known for and what ends up saving her and the others in their time of crisis is that she's nice to people, and she engages with her local community, and so they look out for her, because she's looking out for them. It's really nice. And all the while, even though she's this kind of timid character, when it comes around to her realizing what she's done for and in support of the British Library, she goes and does a big direct action.
Yeah.
She does repress it and
like,
sort of. You go.
She just straight up says that Joker's a fascist. She's like, you are a terrible person, and I hate you.
Yeah.
And that's great.
She's at this impasse where the institution in power over what she loves most, literature of knowledge, is something that she has to sort of principally be against, and it requires her to, in trying to, to respond to that, in taking vengeance, which there is a character apparently who is Yomiko's lover that's barely mentioned in the series, that is not Nancy, but I think in the anime more so they lean on like, what you did to Nancy was terrible, taking away Junior, she has again these close intimate kind of ties that they step on, and that's what makes it register for her. I have to do something drastic, and what does she do? It involves a book burning, right? Or at least that's what Joker sort of fabricates it out to be. I don't remember if we ever 100% confirmed it. The thing is that Yomiko doesn't really have a moment where she's like, "It's not true. I never did that." Right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like she did, and
it's interesting that they would push her to that, right? Like it's
right.
It's a cruel thing done from cruel circumstances. It does. It sort of makes sense. I also love that she's ride or die for Nancy.
Yes, she takes her when she goes on the lamb, and that's funny.
In the OVA, when she's sitting there reading and they're talking about romance and stuff, and then Nancy's braiding her hair, and she like takes her hair braid and like uses it to brush Yomiko's cheek to try to get her attention. It's the fucking cutest shit I've ever seen. Oh, that was Cloud 9 right there. That was like Yuri Goldmine. And I like that it's, you know, we have this moment where Yomiko continues to take care of younger Nancy, who she had no affiliation with previously, right? Like, if anything, that younger Nancy clone was, you know, a terrible person to her, you know, and threatened her life. But she still saw goodness in her because she saw goodness in Nancy. And she felt like she was responsible, and so she took care of her. And what do you know? Nancy younger sort of turned out like Nancy older. There's sort of a nurture versus nature thing going on there. There's so much about Yomiko that seems like it's like just like, oh, that's so obvious they would do that, you know, so easy to implement. But I think that there's still a tremendous effort to get all this stuff right, down to like, you know, her outfit, the way she'll wear, you know, her hair up and still have bedhead, right? You know, just, yeah, and she's got blue eyes for her British side, you know, just it just works. It was all intentional, you know.
Yeah. Well,
quick
I also
trivia
like
moment.
the.
Oh, you go, and then I'll end with trivia on that.
The creator was like, I wanted Nancy to be in her 30s. He's like, if there's not enough cool women out there in anime that are in their 30s, and yeah. I'm like, cool, fuck yeah, dude.
Yes. In the official archive, apparently Yomiko owns that whole building in Jinbocho, but she only lives in the penthouse at the top. That's queen shit.
And the rest is books?
I think so.
That's funny. Or you know what she would do? She would live in the penthouse, and then if you are a bookstore, she would let you have the bottom to be a bookstore.
Well, oh, you know what? Well, that's also where, because isn't that where Nenene's living during that time? Where like there's the living quarters and stuff. It's just that Yomiko likes to hang out in the penthouse, and so like they go up there at one point, and it's all dusty and stuff, like she left it. So yeah, it's not wall to wall books, but it's still pretty close. Do you have anything else? Anything you want to say on Yomiko?
I think she's a great character. Once again, if there was like a 24 episode post Read or Die TV where it's just everyone hanging out and doing shit, I would watch the fuck out of that.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
I know. You got to cut me off at some point. Do you mind if I do a quick little lightning round of character trivia?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Joker, his real name is Joseph Carpenter.
Hell yeah.
Fucking Jesus allegory. Fucking come on, man.
That's so funny.
Yeah. With Mr. Gentleman, on his wheelchair, is the painting, the Angelus. That was originally a Jean-Francois Millet painting that was called Prayer for the Potato Crop. And that, in the original painting, it was just a couple of farmers, like laborers, who were out in a potato field, and they had, you know, this small crop that they were, you know, kind of looking sadly upon. The painting's commission fell through, and he couldn't sell it to anyone else. His prior work was criticized by conservatives for being working class, ugly, and gross. Even, and then its large size was like criticized because, like, oh, it's such a menial subject. Just it's the laborers. Like, why would you make a big painting out of this? By the way, I'm borrowing this a little bit of insight from Philip McCoat, from who wrote in Journal of Art and Society in 2020. So that's the article I drew that information from. But how interesting is it that that painting would go from Prayer for the Potato Crop onto the Angelus, because he would need to put it to a wider audience to sell it, and so he painted a fucking church in the background. And guess what? Eventually, that caught on, and after his death, he'd become much more popular with, you guessed it, a crowd that was unified by this religious European Christian imagery in his paintings. So here we have Mr. Gentleman, who is being prided upon as this unifying factor for a European nation. Huh. Fuck, crazy how that works, huh? Weird how that works. The show is really good.
The show's very, very good.
We didn't talk enough about Drake, but I think Drake is like if Lieutenant Surge was a militant anarchist feminist.
Yeah.
He loves his daughter and he hates his job, and that's great.
And he is the first person to throw a grenade into a crowd of people he doesn't like.
Also, he's 40 years old.
Good.
He should be at the club.
He should be at the club! God, I would love... Alright, I have... we'll talk a little bit about it in hypotheticals. I just thought of a really good potential episode that will never happen.
Okay, no, just do it now. Just tell me.
Alright, imagine there is an episode where everyone's going out for the night, right? They all get together. And it ends with them having to decide who's going to stay home to watch Anita Jr. and Drake's daughter. And they're just like, I need to go to the club. No, I need to go to the club.
I love it. Last couple of notes here. I super called it that Lee was chewing on his pen as if it was a cigarette because he's quitting smoking. So props to me. I'm just gonna grandstand about that. No, but for real, like, even though he plays kind of a minor part and he ends up being, you know, sort of a bastard, I like his character. I think they did well with him. With Hisami, she is just. I love that with all these complicated characters, she's just unquestionably cinnamon roll tier of just. You know, she's just the sweetest little darling who can do no wrong. And her fawning over Anita is like the Yuri annihilation beam that just completely kills Toru's chance with her. And by God, he respects it. She is the Diana to Anita's Annie in terms of Anna Green Gables. And
that's cute.
Such a good pick. It's also Toko, like the girl you mentioned, who's like she has the older sister. Haruhi, who's selling her books and stuff, and she's got that super like boisterous personality. You know, they have one joke, but it's a good joke. I love that they have this infinite grind set.
Yeah, I need to sell my sister's book. Okay. All right. It is. We are approaching the 3-hour mark.
I know. Oh God. I just know that there's so much Yuri in the show, and I had an entire just list of bullet points that says we love women lightning round, and we're not going to go through it, but you can connect the dots. Okay, everybody. This is my message to you.
We love women.
Yes.
Any hypotheticals you want to throw out to me?
Yes. So in episode 6, Hisa hopes that Anita will find a book that's like her sister's. What book am I? Or what kind of book am I?
So the metaphor is that she wants Anita to find. Wait, say that again.
There's that moment where she's like, you know, Anita's like, I don't like books. You know, but she puts up with her sisters. She likes her sisters, so she's like, I hope you find a book that's like your sister's. I think this might have been the episode where like Hisa came to visit them at their apartment. Anyways, what you have to classify me as some kind of book, and I have to classify you as some kind of book. That's the hypothetical.
So I enjoy talking to you.
Okay. You know those books.
I'll take that.
No. I know. But I'm trying to classify that as a book. You know those books that you got when you were like 11, and it was like the Encyclopedia of Star Wars, and it's just a bunch of character costumes and then a bunch of made up shit about them.
The eyewitness books.
Yeah. And you're just like, holy fuck, this is the coolest thing ever, and it's just not even like literature, it's just like fake facts, but you're just eating it up. That's you. I will devour everything that you tell me, and I will look at it and I will be like, this is so cool, and then I will not it will impact me and I'll remember it, but it's not like I'm gonna be like, damn, do you remember when I learned about Kyle Katarn's secret stash of death sticks on the Ebon Hawk, which are, by the way, real things in Star Wars but not connected to each other. But that's what I would do, and then I will bring it up in conversation. I bring you up in conversation a lot, so that's it.
Well, here's something you can bring up next time. Tell everybody that Darth Maul got his horns because those are from different beasts he's slain. So he cuts the horns off and then he glues them to his head.
I don't think that's true. I can't. I don't think that's true.
I think
what book am I?
You're like an action comic. Like,
hell yeah.
You have all these interests and only so much limited time on this earth, right? And so
yeah.
You can't pour a lot of time in, but you do always have to go deep. You are someone who hits things fast and hard with 110%.
I like that. I appreciate that. It's beautiful.
I'm glad we made it through this bit without disparaging each other in some way.
Yeah, no, I don't want to disparage you.
And we are unfortunately in a position where we enjoy each other's company, and that makes life difficult.
Fuck.
We have to make a fucking podcast because of it. One more hypothetical and we're done. We're calling. Okay. You have two options.
Okay.
Guarantee a sequel to Read or Die without the certainty that it'll live up to its prior successes, so it could go bad.
Okay.
Or you guarantee that there will never be any other additional content ever again, but at least it won't sully what we originally had.
I honestly don't think that... Here's the thing. If they redid Read or Die, and like you can't get that dub cast back, and I just don't think it's going to hit as hard. I really don't. I think without like the real chemistry they had, I just don't see it making me as happy. I think I would enjoy it. I think I would like direct novels to it. But I don't think the Read or Die TV got any direct sequels.
Yeah, not that I know of.
But yeah, I don't know. So
in my heart, I don't want them to ever touch this ever again, and we'll just have what we have. But I think
I agree.
If they did make more, I would only be happy that I could tell people, no, go watch the original, though.
Yeah. I agreed. Well, shit. We did it. We have two episodes that are going to come out soon, hopefully. We're busy.
You can say that on the stream, but by the time this comes out, both of those episodes you're talking about will be out, which will be the one before this one and this one.
Hell yeah. We don't have an next show right up on the bat.
This time for sure, Milky Homes, 100%. Definitely gonna happen.
You know what? Honestly, I want to watch something shit and fun. Milky Homes might be it. That does. Honestly, I think we're due for a 1 hour and 20-minute episode. Fuck. All right, thank you all for listening to us talk about Read or Die for like 3 hours. If you liked what you listened to, you can check us out on the internet. We exist on there sometimes. We stream on twitch.tv.com .familiarterritory.territory
/
that's
terrorism.
not the actual. Yeah, well, that's not the actual thing, but you can find us. You know where we're at. We're in the comments. We're in the links. We're playing No Sleep for Kaname Date, the game by Uchikoshi. It's fine.
It's not him this time, but he was there.
Yeah. What the fuck? Oh, never mind. I was looking at our channel, and there's like some old guy in our channel preview, and I'm like, oh, we don't have one. He's telling us to make one. You can check us out on YouTube. I'm trying to hopefully we're doing a new intro and shit, and I kind of want to see if we can somehow actually put our old shit on a podcast streaming thing. But we need to change the music, so we'll see how that goes. That is a project that I just sprung on Brantley right now. So
yep.
But that might not happen. So you can check us out on YouTube as of now. Maybe someplace else in the future. Who knows? But you don't need to do any of that shit because we are not your dads.